We all know what happens when you assume something. And yet sometimes, do you have any other choice? As we continue our conversation about a word's value, we will discuss the value of the word assume and more on this edition of today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom, you're a little fuzzy this morning to me.
I am.
Yes.
Well, maybe because it's Monday morning.
There's
and
that.
And the computer might be tired, like me.
Busy weekend for the computer, huh?
I think so. Well, actually, no. It was a busy weekend for me, so maybe it's just feeling the way I'm feeling. So.
Okay.
Which is all right.
All good.
All right, everyone. Well, good morning and welcome to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast, where we have, as we do every week, a conversation around a topic of the week. And then we pick one thing within that topic to discuss. Throughout the discussion, if you'd like something to share, please feel free to share it in the comments of your favorite social media where you happen to be watching this, which could be Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, or
LinkedIn Live.
Yes, LinkedIn Live, one of our favorites. Please feel free to do that because we know that it'll add value to our show and might be helping someone else as they're figuring out how to take their next step along their own unique pathway to success. At the end of our conversation, we'll come up with our one thing, our today's antidote, to help you move forward and find that next step. Maybe it's today, or maybe it's some other time down the road. So again, at the end, you can also feel free to share your comments or your antidote to help others move forward. With that, let us move forward. And as we do every show, Bob, what are you celebrating today?
I'm going to celebrate music. So I was at church yesterday and they were talking about Hamilton the musical. They compared it to some religious stuff. And
one of my favorites.
I'm sorry?
One of my favorites.
I know. And I had forgotten how much I enjoyed Hamilton. I've only seen the movie. I haven't seen it in the theater on stage. And I also have listened to the soundtrack a number of times. And I really forgot how powerful it was to me. And they just played snippets at church and connected to some religious themes. But I left and I was like, wow, that's really an amazing score. So I celebrate that. It was on my mind. The person I was at church with really liked it as well. We were listening to it a little on the way home. It was just really something powerful that we were able to share and that a whole bunch of people shared. And I just it had sort of fallen off by the wayside. How about you?
I'm going to celebrate today perseverance.
Okay.
Yesterday in the Baltimore area, it was pretty hot and steamy. And it just so happens that it was a tryout for a summer tournament event. And myself and a few other officials were on the field out and about from about 9 o'clock until about 5:30 when we had a rain delay, and then stayed on the field until about 7:30 when it got nice and hot and humid after the rain delay. And at some point, you just don't have any other choice, but you just have to keep moving your legs as much as you may not want to. And I think one of the things is being there with other people made it easier to do. Not that it was easy, and not that I'm not tired from it this morning, and a little sun soaked. It was well worth it, and great to do it with other people. So I think sometimes when you have to persevere, it's nice to not have to do it alone.
You're going to like the reading I have today from the Renegade Way then. This
Excellent.
fits in perfectly. We didn't even plan this. You are who you associate with. And while most of the people I associate with are fine, they don't understand or inspire me to seek new heights with my business. The difference is stark. My new entrepreneur friends talk about business and meals on the golf course during happy hour and wherever else we interact. They challenge me with questions about why or how I did or didn't do something. They provide insights into things I share with that I couldn't identify on my own. They push me towards greater success. They also encourage me when success seems farther off. And I'm going to guess some of that happened for you yesterday.
With success being surviving, yes.
Yeah,
Being able to get up and down the
success.
Oh, no
Sounds
doubt.
like it was a big one.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Excellent. I like that. I like that when it works out sometimes. Fascinating.
Serendipity, right?
Yeah, I think so. Something like that. Good word. All right, everyone. So
It's also a great movie with the incredible Kate Beckinsale.
Oh, that's why you
see?
like the word.
There you go.
The person who I remember the first time you mentioned her on the show, and I was like, "Who's that?" And you were like, well, "You might want to check it out." Anyhow, all right, everyone. So let's dive in. We are actually this week something that is unique. I'm not sure maybe we've done this once before. We're going to carry a topic over to the week. Last week we talked about a word's value, and I picked the words of the week that we discussed. This week we're going to talk about a word's value, and these are the words that I think, as Bob shared last week, provide some sort of trigger for him. So today we are going to kick it off with talking about the word assume. I hope that didn't just trigger something in you that you now are going to go off the rails.
No, I'm okay. I'll be strong.
All right.
So
excellent.
I'm going to start, if I may.
Sounds like you're going to. Go ahead.
I am someone who assumes a great deal. Yesterday, I made an assumption about something and got caught in it. Twice last week, I made assumptions and got caught in them. And I am very vigilant with other people when they say, I assume this. It just jumps out at me because when I was teaching college, about 90% of the time when my students assume something, they assume the least successful way to perceive it. Like, I assume you want this. Be like, no, that's not what I said. So I think assumptions can get us into trouble. I think when we assume in our business or when we assume as leaders, like I think as a leader, my first time being a leader in a corporate environment, I assumed that when I spoke, people understood. It took me about a month to realize that that wasn't a guarantee, that just because I sat at the meeting and said I'm in charge doesn't mean that people understood what I was saying or what we were trying to do. And I think we make a lot of assumptions in our professional lives because it's easier. I know for me, it's easier than doing the hard work. Well, they understand what I mean. They understand this. They understand. I've said that a million times. That's an assumption. And I think when I hear someone say, I assume, I immediately go, whoa, something is off here. And the discussion often leads to a blind spot, I guess would be the way I would describe it. Like I'm dealing with a blind spot I have that I assume people see the world the way I see it. And in all three of those instances in this last week, they couldn't have seen it the way I see it. It's just impossible. And so I'm trying very hard in my world to eliminate assumptions and ask the questions and be more declarative. Like, this is what I want. This is what I need. This is how I see it unfolding. And that's different than assuming things. I don't think I've made any sense, Tom, in the last 4 minutes.
No, I think that there's value in that. I think what you shared, what was interesting and what started going through my head was your interest in being able to control everything. As you shared,
I was trying not to say that, but that was at the core of this.
Well, and I think that becomes the challenge with the word that people have with the word assumption, is they believe they should know everything, could know everything, need to know everything that they could possibly ever need. Because I would argue, and this is what I came up with this morning as I was thinking about this, that at some point we have no other choice but to make an assumption. We don't have all the information we need. We need to at some point make a decision. And if we're afraid of assuming that this is the best that I can do with the information that I have, then we may not make that decision because we are concerned about the results. And so assumptions become a thing that doesn't add value as like we think it should. And so I think we get nervous about doing those things. And to me, that means we sometimes get stuck. At some point, somebody said, hey, you know what? It would be really good if I could make a phone that looks like this, and that I could put all this stuff that was mobile. That was an assumption that they made, not knowing whether people would ever really care or not. Coke made an assumption that new Coke was going to be what people were interested in. So they make that assumption. So they come up with an idea, and then they go out and test that assumption. And sometimes I think if we are afraid to assume a few things, we don't take the chances that maybe we could. We don't come up with the ideas that would help move things forward. And a lot of times because we're worried that we're assuming this, and what will the results be based on my assumption? And so I actually think there is some value in the word assume, because sometimes we cannot have all the information that we need to make the decision. And if we are not willing to make some assumptions, won't that just keep us stuck?
Wow. You totally spun me on my head. I'm just trying to process. So when I make an assumption, it's often when I don't gather all the information I need to. In a case yesterday, I wanted to change plans for something later this week. And I just said, hey, I changed plans. As opposed to, hey, this other thing came up. It's really important to me. And is it okay if we change plans? The first one was, I assumed the person would be okay with it. The second one was, which I didn't do, by the way. The second one was a discussion around the situation. And I think when I make a lot of my assumptions, it's because I'm not comfortable having the discussion. So rather than have the discussion with someone and figure it out, I just make an assumption, and half the time, maybe 60% of the time, I'm right. So I get away with it.
What was that word you just used?
Right.
I wonder if there is that piece of it. And I understand the point of, if we have the opportunity to better understand and ask a question to try to get the answer that is real for whoever is in front of us or whoever it may impact, I think that's helpful. And I'm not sure that's always possible. Sometimes it is, if who you are impacting is just one person. So you are obviously impacting one other person. So there is the opportunity that you could go to that person, and rather than just make the decision, you could ask what they thought. Now, the other challenge to that is, what if what they thought doesn't fit with what you desire? So even if you had asked the question, they might have come back with, well, that doesn't really work for me. And I guess you could change what was real for you, or you would still go ahead and make that decision anyways, because that was what is going to be in your best interest or fits your needs, your desires. And you end up getting the same result.
Possibly. I'm going to move it to a team situation.
Okay.
So the leader decides that the leader's told the group of people that he or she's working with that they want to do this thing. We're going to try to increase revenue by 30% this month.
Okay.
Leader goes to a meeting. The bosses say, hey, we're going to have to cut your staff. Leader says, okay. And he cuts his best salesperson.
Okay.
And he assumes that his employees realize that they're not going to hit their sales goal for that. They're not going to hit the 30% increase. But it was never communicated. Nor was there a discussion around, hey guys, we're trying to get the 30% sales goal and I need to cut staff. What's a way that we could do this? What if we all took 5 hours less per week? What if we did this? What if we did that? that's the kind of assumption I think gets us in trouble as leaders and as business people. When I assume that my customers will, I got a great one. I have a client. Well, our customers will know that we're closed on Memorial Day. Historically, not always the case because they get calls and they get people complaining. So it's a holiday. Everyone knows it's a holiday. Yes, it is a holiday, but do they really know that you're closed? Well, what do you expect? It would be nice if you sent them an email this week and said, hey, by the way, we're closed next Monday. That's the kind of assumption I think we get into trouble in business, where it's just like, well, they're going to know.
Okay. And at some point, though, you make a decision one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, assumptions may not always get you the results that you expected, which again is to me, that's a fact of control or an issue of control. And then sometimes you make that okay, I made an assumption. It was, again, the best guess that I had without any prior information. And then maybe it's the first time I've ever been open, or my business has been in business leading into a Memorial Day. And I might be like, well, it's Memorial Day. Of course we're going to be closed. And why would anyone think otherwise? I mean, you're making that assumption, thinking, well, and yet you don't have any further information. Now you could go the other way and say, well, nobody's going to assume that we're closed, so we have to make that decision. And you spend all this time, and you might get some replies like, well, of course you're closed. It's Memorial Day. Nobody's open on Memorial Day. So I think it's just one of those things that when we worry about, and I completely see your point. And I also think that there are times when we don't have all the information that we can ever get, and we aren't going to be able to get it. So we make an assumption and we do it. There have been times when I think people were worried about making assumption that we would have information. And so they send endless emails about how you're closed on Memorial Day. And I'm like, and you're like, at some point, why are they sending me 8 emails to tell me that they are closed on Memorial Day? And you make the assumption, which might be okay, that, well, people would rather have all that information than not know. And in reality, maybe people don't care. So I think there is some assumptions that we make, even the assumption that people won't know that we are closed on Memorial Day is an assumption. Fair?
Yes.
And so that if we are worried about the results of our assumption, I think we're going to be a lot less likely to act, which is the only way we will get our results.
Wow.
So I can see both sides of it. I'm not sure.
Okay.
To me, so I guess this would be maybe my one thing that I'll share.
Okay.
Is I know the saying of what happens when we assume. And I think that saying is all about control and results. Because we don't want to be made a blah, blah, blah of. Because we're worried about the results. If we are interested in the actions we take, and those are the things we can actually control, we're going to get the results we're going to get. And we can never expect to know exactly what all the results are going to be. And my fear is that if you are worried about assuming and worried about somebody saying, you know what happens when you assume, blah, 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 we will stop acting.
Wow. I'm going to go in a different direction.
Good.
I think often when I assume, it's because I think I know everything already, or I'm afraid to ask that one question that would clarify things. Or more importantly, if I ask the question, I'm afraid that the answer may not be the answer I want. And so my one thing would be to ask the question, because if you don't ask the question, all those things tend to slow us down more than just asking the question would.
What if you're not able to get to the person to ask the question?
come on. We're in a situation where, you can find people.
Really? Every
Like the
time you want.
Memorial Day thing, I could find 10 people to ask, hey, do you think our business is open on Monday? Do you think our business is open on Monday? And if 8 of them said, no, I don't, okay, great. If 8 of them said, yes, I do, okay, now I've got my information.
And you're going to base your actions on what 8 people think? Some random 8 people you just select? I understand that provides some understanding of what the results might be.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, it's a very small sample size.
Agreed.
So I guess my only thing would be is, are you always going to be able to find the correct person to ask? And when you need to?
Probably not.
Okay.
Wow, this has been quite the discussion. I'm going to have to play this one in my car on the way home from work.
And I can completely understand where if you have the opportunity to ask the correct person the question, there is significant value in doing that rather than assuming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just would offer that sometimes we can't always do that. How you feeling, Bob?
What's that?
Did this go the way you thought it was going to go?
No, far better, far more useful. I'm going to have to go. I will have to go back and listen to it, though, because there was a lot to process.
All right. Well, everyone, thanks so much for being a part of our conversation today. If you have something you'd like to share, some comments, thoughts, or ideas around the value of the word assume, please feel free to share them in the comments. And of course, we would welcome your one thing, your today's antidote. Because I would imagine that there are a lot of different thoughts and ideas out there around the word assume. And we would love to hear yours because it will impact. What's that?
We would love to hear.
It will impact what's real for all of us. So please feel free to share that. If you are interested in being more a part of the conversation. What's wrong? Hello, Bob? I think Bob's frozen, so I'm going to move forward. If you are interested in being a part of the conversation, we'll be talking about it all week and having conversations and comments, polls, and quotes inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. So feel free to join us there. It's easy to do. Just go to Facebook, search for Ring of Renegades, and you can become a part of our growing community where we are helping people take their next step along their own unique pathway to success. So we look forward to seeing you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we'll see you tomorrow morning, again, 7 a.m. Eastern, for our next edition of Today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegading you. And I don't know whether to tell you to assume or not assume anymore. I'm totally befuddled.
Maybe go out and think about
There
what's
you
the
go.
value of the word assume for you. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.